And hello again, and here we see my Norley, which I featured in a video last week when I moved it from my damp garage into the back of the house in the conservatory where it can stay for the long winter. And while it's here, I can give it a good old clean, a good old polish, because the damp in the garage had done some damage to the alloy all over the bike over the last 2 years. And as you can see, I made a good start. I've got the chain case looking good again. Took a few hours to do that, but we're getting there slowly. I've also been working on other parts of the bike, including the tank. And as you can see, I've done this half the tank so far, but I've still got to do this half yet. And even though I spent a good hour or two with the old Auto So polish, polishing away on this side of the tank, I can't say I'm too happy with the result. And one reason for that is my fault, because about 2 years ago, as the bike was being built up, the tank was being put on the bike, off the bike, back on the bike and so on. It did gain a few small scratches. Even though I was being really careful, you just can't help it. It's a very delicate finish, and as I say, as the bike was being built up, it did gain a scratch here and there. So to solve that problem, I thought, haha, in my wisdom, I attacked it with some 600 wet and dry sandpaper, which sure enough did remove those deep scratches, but it left behind some more fine scratches all over the tank. And so to get rid of those, we move on from 600 to 800 wet and dry, which I did, which kind of worked, and then I stopped, and that was a mistake. I should have carried on with finer and finer and finer wet and dry sandpaper to remove those fine scratches. And here we are now, 2 years later, and those fine scratches are still visible in the finish of the tank. I don't think this lens will actually show that, so let me change over lenses and we can get a zoom in on that finish. Okay, so I've changed lenses and we're a bit closer now. I'm not sure actually with this shiny finish that the lens can pick it up, but there are lots and lots of very fine scratches all over the surface of this tank, which I'm going to have to remove. And so I'm going to stop polishing now, because metal polish won't solve that particular issue. And instead I'm going to have to come back another day and attack this tank with wet and dry sandpaper. I'll start off with maybe 1000 grade and follow it up with 1200 and 1500 and even 2000 grade, which is very, very fine, to try and get all these fine scratches out of the tank surface. Once that's done, I can then go back to using Auto So metal polish and hopefully get a really good finish on the tank. And in fact, that's one reason why I am thinking about getting this tank painted, or even painting it myself, because it's such a nightmare looking after a tank like this. Yes, they look good on photographs, they look good in YouTube videos, but out here in the real world, they're incredibly delicate, and just a little zip will mark it or brush against it and it's got a scratch on it. It's 10 times more difficult to look after than a standard paint job, but that's something for another day. Now, a much quicker and easier solution would be to take the tank off the bike and use a rotary buffer to buff out all these deep scratches. But I'm not going to do that, because I was warned many years ago by a tank maker called John Williams, who owns the tank shop up in Dumfries in Scotland, to be very wary of using a rotary buffer on aluminium tanks. And the reason is because doing so generates a lot of heat in the metal. And that's all very well if you're using a billet piece, a big fat sort of 5mm, 10mm billet part, that's no problem. But with an aluminium tank, the material is very thin, and if you're not too careful, the heat will build up in the surface of the tank, and it can do two things. It can cause a stain in the surface of the metal, which is quite tricky to remove, or more seriously, the heat can build up even more and end up buckling and damaging the tank, which we don't want. So sadly, I'm going to have to do this all by hand. Not today, mind, but come back in a few months' time when I've done all that, and I'll have the tank looking as good as new. Or maybe I'll even think, sod that, I'll paint the tank, who knows. So anyway, that's where I've got to so far. So yeah, that's a lot of work, but thankfully we're now in winter time, and this bike's going nowhere until, what, March, April next year, when the salt and grit have been removed from the roads, which we use here in the UK during the winter. So I've got plenty of time to come back in and maybe do, I don't know, half an hour a day or an hour a week, just slowly getting this bike back to how I want it. So anyway, thanks for watching, and cheers.